What's going on, guys? It's me, Zachary Steele, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one, I'm going to go over five running back sleepers that I've identified as potential league winners. Obviously, league winner is a catchy word, but I do believe that all five of these guys have a lot of upside, and they're certainly guys that I'm looking to target late in drafts. And I'll break down who and why here. So for starters, the guy I'm really looking to get everywhere is A.J. Dillon. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers notoriously don't like to use Aaron Jones as the feature back that we all want him to be. Even with just Jamaal Williams there, Jamaal Williams got a lot of work. In general, you'd see like a 60 to 40% snap share between Jones and Jamaal Williams. I really expect to see that same split between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I think A.J. Dillon's super talented, especially as a runner. We saw him really flash last year, and we all know how great of an athlete he is. So I do think there's a lot of upside for A.J. Dillon, even in that limited role. So I think he's somebody that you can actually just sort of play. He's not someone I'm looking forward to playing on a week-to-week basis, but he's somebody that you can certainly play in a pinch. And then I also feel like if something were to happen to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon does have a legitimate top 5 running back upside. In the 2 weeks Aaron Jones missed last year, Jamaal Williams had more than 20 points in each of them in PPR formats. And I don't see any reason why A.J. Dillon couldn't reproduce those same numbers. The Packers like to get their running backs involved in the receiving game as well. We haven't necessarily seen that out of A.J. Dillon, but I do believe he's capable. And also, if not, he could still easily average 5+ yards per carry. And if he gets any sort of workload at all, I think he could be extremely effective. Second guy here I've got is Tony Pollard. He's sort of one of these guys that makes these lists every year, it seems. But there are whispers of him being more involved in the Dallas Cowboys offense this season. I would expect to see him maybe go out there in the slot every now and then, and maybe get more work as more of a third down back. I think you might see a little bit less of Zeke on the field. Last season, Zeke really did slow down, especially post Dak Prescott injury. Maybe he was banged up. Maybe it was just sort of the offense as a whole sputtering without Dak. But I personally am out on Zeke this year, and I think that in turn with that, I'm very much in on Tony Pollard. I think Dallas Cowboys have really elite offense. There's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities, and I do think that Tony Pollard is an extremely talented player. He's great in open space. He can catch the ball. He can run well. I think Tony Pollard's somebody that can really have a lot of success, especially if Zeke were to go down, or if Zeke were to, last year Zeke had some fumbling issues. I could see a world where those sprout up again, and then maybe we actually just start seeing Tony Pollard as the feature back. Obviously, that's probably unlikely, especially with the financial commitment the Cowboys have made with Zeke. But eventually, talent's going to find its way onto the field. I do think Tony Pollard is extremely talented, and I'm not even sure it's far-fetched to say he's less talented than Zeke. So I guess this is also part of me just being really out on Zeke this year. But I do think Tony Pollard has a lot of upside, and he could be also used in a pinch even without a Zeke injury. But with a Zeke injury, we all know how much upside Pollard has. The third guy here I've got is Jamaal Williams. Obviously, I talked about him earlier last season on the Packers, but this year he's going to be on the Lions. It's going to be him and DeAndre Swift in that offense. Obviously, he's a very talented running back. He put up some great numbers for the Packers over the years. And the Lions, with Anthony Lynn, offense coordinator, have pretty much stated they're going to be going with the high hand approach and not necessarily the feature role that we all are expecting DeAndre Swift to get. I think they're going to stick to that. I think that Jamaal Williams is plenty talented enough to get snaps in that offense. We also know what he can do out of the backfield as a receiver, and I think that case can be made that behind Swift and Hawkinson, Jamaal Williams is their third best receiving option. So I think you might even see a world where you see 2 running backs on the field a lot of the time for the Lions. So again, I think Jamaal Williams is someone that you're getting super late. In auction, you can get him for $1. You can get him way after the 10th round in most snake drafts. And I think he's a guy that you can play in your flex if you need to. And he's a guy that really has a lot of upside if DeAndre Swift were to miss time. So that's sort of the trend I'm going for here is guys that are going really late and you can play if you need to, but then guys that there's that whole other level they could take it to if something were to happen. So next guy, he doesn't necessarily fit that mold I just touched on, but David Johnson. He played extremely well last year, believe it or not. He's extremely involved as a receiver. We all know that the Texans are going to be extremely bad this season with or without Watson in all reality. They lost Will Fuller this season. They lost Duke Johnson. They did bring in Philip Lindsay, but I don't think there's very much competition for targets. And when the Texans are down 21 at halftime, very often they're going to have to throw the ball a lot in the second half of games. There's going to be a lot of garbage time for that offense. It's one of the reasons I'm really high on Brandon Cooks this season as well. But I think you're going to get a lot of dink and dunk out of David Johnson, and he is the starting running back for the Texans. He's a proven commodity. He's a guy that I think you can count on to get 10 plus points per game, and there's always the chance where he just soaks up a lot of garbage time points and could post some of those 10 reception games like we saw towards the tail end of last season. I think there's the upside there just because of the receiving volume he might receive. And I also think that he's got a pretty safe floor given the workload I expect him to get. And like I said, previous year, you're getting him about 9th or 10th round. You're getting him for $1 in auction. You're not necessarily losing anything by taking him. I think he's got a really safe floor, especially for somebody that maybe goes 0 RB or some modification to that. Maybe you take one running back early and wait to get your second one for a while. I think David Johnson's a great guy that you could fill in. He's actually going to be really useful for you throughout the whole season. And lastly, this one's maybe a little bit of a reach, but I am saying Duke Johnson towards the very tail end of your draft. Obviously, Duke Johnson is currently still a free agent. He's not on an NFL roster at the moment, but I think we all understand that he's extremely talented, especially as a pass catcher. Does a really great job making guys miss in the open field. I think unlike a lot of the other guys that I was looking at in these spots, you had guys like Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Michael Carter. I think that something that I was really looking for in this last guy was somebody that has a chance to end up not only with a significant role, but also in a good spot. I think that it's going to be really hard for a lot of these guys that are lower on to necessarily emerge. I could have said Alexander Madison, but I think that Duke Johnson's talented enough that if he's given a quality opportunity to succeed, I think he really will. I could see a role where he ends up on the Rams this season. Maybe they sign him sometime in the coming month or so. Or if any team with the pass catching running back goes down, I think that Duke Johnson's really somebody that can go in there and make a really big impact. Say Clyde Edwards-Helaire were to go down, the Chiefs were to pick him up. Obviously, there's a lot of ifs here, but I think that I have a hard time believing that Duke Johnson won't find his way onto an NFL roster before the season, or at least at some point this season. I think that when he does, he's going to be involved enough in the receiving game that he'll offer you a pretty safe floor. And if there's ever a world where he can get into a high octane offense and have a feature role, he really could be a top tier running back. I'm a little biased. I'm a huge Duke Johnson fan. I've been really much a believer in his talents for years. I've always felt like he's been extremely underutilized in both Cleveland and Houston. And I understand that it's a really big flyer, and obviously you probably don't even need to draft him, but I think he's a name that you should keep an eye on, especially wherever he does end up, because if there's a team that needs a third down running back, they should take Duke Johnson, because Duke Johnson is certainly capable of that position. And I think Duke Johnson can handle a really sizable role too. And like I said, just keep an eye on Duke Johnson. If he ends up somewhere favorable, I really do think he's got a shot to be an RB2 this season. If he ends up, like if the Rams were to pick him up and it was going to be him and Cam Akers splitting, I would have him higher than Cam Akers because I'd expect him to be extremely more involved in the passing game. I don't think that's something that's out of the realm of possibility. I had always been talked about a lot in that realm of things. But like I said, there's injuries are going to happen throughout the season. Of all the free agent running backs left out there, it's pretty much him and Gurley. There's Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, and a couple others. But Duke Johnson's got the freshest legs. I think he can bring the most to an offense out of all those guys left. I think that he will end up on a roster. I think he'll actually contribute quite a bit wherever he ends up. So keep an eye on Duke Johnson. Take him up with your last pick in the draft. Just keep an eye on him in waivers early on in the season if he doesn't find a roster. But he's got to think that can make a difference by the end of the season. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. If you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe and click that little bell so you get a notification when I put out a video. I'll get another video out here pretty soon about some wide receiver sleepers I got in mind. If there were any running backs I didn't touch on or any that you disagree with, please feel free to comment down below. I love to have discussions about these things. I think it's really important to get everybody's point of view on all this. Obviously, my opinion is not the gospel. I could be wrong. I often am. But I think I'm right quite a bit too. And I think that what really helps you figure that out before it's too late is having those conversations and sort of talking about guys we believe in and why. So I love this stuff. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch my video today. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.